look better.
You look great, Coach. Thank you very much. We'll go with Andy.
Hey, thanks, Paul.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We'll go with Andy Greeter first. Andy, when you're ready, go ahead, sir.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, PJ. Thanks for taking the time. I want to go back to the last couple of days before the decision was made. Obviously, you guys get the schedule. You guys go to camp. You guys have taken care of business, eradicating COVID. You guys are ramping up, and then all of a sudden, you guys have to shut down. What is that like with your team as you're trying to go through that moment where you're thinking you're going to play, and then all of a sudden it goes away?
Well, I think communication's key in any type of relationship. Player, coach, coach, player, administration, coach, administration, player. When there's a lack of communication, there's a void. And that void is always, as human nature, usually filled with negativity. So the longer the lack of communication goes, the more negative people feel. We constantly communicate with our players. From day one, we had a plan of training camp of easing our players back into this. We had an equipment step where we were going to try out all types of equipment, from the masks to the actual head shields, to the actual, the shut shields that come under here, to things that went on the face mask. And we told them, like, we're not even going to be in pads, guys, for 8 to 9 days from now. We are going to do this very slow. And we were going to acclimate how we felt our team would acclimate best. And that's what we continue to do. So when people said we had to go back, we didn't have to go anywhere. We were already in that stage. We didn't have to digress. We didn't have to come back, because we felt with the safety of our football team, what was right for us, what was right from our medical professionals, what was right for Mark Coyle and our president, Joan Gable, we felt easing them into that, to the whole process of training camp, would be the best decision we could do. So we didn't have to really go backwards much. We just continued to do what we were doing, because it was a slow progression towards that naturally.
All right, thank you, Coach. Let's go to Daniel House. Daniel, when you're ready.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, PJ, thanks for the time. From your perspective, what key things need to be emphasized during the planning process to successfully execute a possible spring season?
Well, I think that everybody's talking about that now, right? Right now, where the coaches are putting together tremendous plans. I know there's been some plans presented and nothing concrete just yet. I know the Big Ten, Kevin Warren and his office are putting together plans, or whether that's winter or spring. There's going to be a lot of plans out there. But what we need to be able to do at the University of Minnesota, we're going to follow the Big Ten guidelines and the protocols and the safety protocols from the doctors, from the medical professionals. And we're just going to continue to take the next right step here. And that's all we can continue to do, period.
All right, let's go to Ari Wasserman with The Athletic. Ari, when you're ready.
Hi, Ari.
Hey, PJ, how are you, man?
I'm doing elite.
Is there a uniformity issue here in terms of certain teams playing or scheduled to play in the fall and you guys playing in the spring, in terms of you might have more time to recruit during the year when they're preparing for a football game, and then if you guys are playing in the spring, then they have the spring evaluation period? College football has always been a pretty uniform thing in terms of rules, and especially on the recruiting calendar. And I know that you guys are all on separate schedules right now, and how's that impacting you and your staff? Because I can't imagine that it seems like normal right now, right?
Well, first and foremost, right, the dead period just got bumped back to the end of September, right? And that has continued to happen over the last 5-6 months as it is. So who knows when we're going to be able to recruit and go out again. But I think the key word to your question is response. Whatever we're handed in the Big Ten or any other conferences, it's up to the universities, coaches, teams to respond however they feel fit to take the next right positive step. And that's what we're going to continue to focus on. And the next right positive step today is taking the step, keeping everybody safe and healthy, making sure we listen to all the protocols and guidelines that are there presented by the medical professionals. And that's what we'll continue to do. There's a lot of people who are making the decisions for what we're going to do in the future. There's a lot of suggestions getting out there from the coaches, which has been healthy. I think that's really good for having coaches' input. But eventually, it's got to come from the higher ups of the decisions we continue to make. But I think the key word of your question is response. I mean, whatever we're handed, whether it's the same or different, who can respond better in those areas of circumstance that are really different.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go to Meg Ryan, Star Tribune.
Hi, Meg.
Hi, PJ. How are you?
Doing elite, thanks.
Good. I wanted to get your opinion on one of the parts of the statement that went around on Sunday night that several college football players across all, different Power 5 conferences shared, the "we want to play" thing. They mentioned that ultimately they would like to form a players association or some kind of union. I know that's been talked about before in college football, but I wanted to get your opinion on what you think about that. If you think that, there is maybe room to have more voice, so kind of a formal organization for these players to have more of a voice in the decision making that they seem to want.
Well, first of all, we're in the profession of education, teaching, dreams, as I've said before. And these student athletes are the ones that have to go do it, right? We can all talk about what we're going to do, but the student athletes are the ones that actually have to go on the field and be in the arenas and go do the guidelines and the rules that are put in place. I think change is inevitable in every situation possible. I think change is always healthy. It's always good. It creates conversation. And in this case, we'll see how it continues to move forward. I think as we've seen in the last 5-6 months, the player's voice has come forward in a lot of situations. And I think that there's a narrative that everybody thinks a certain group feels this certain way just because it's presented that way. I'll give you an instance. I'm meeting with, as we speak. Now, that's why my press conference is pushed back a little bit. I'm meeting with every single kid on our football team individually. And I'm about third of the way through our football team. And it's interesting because I've asked every single one of our players 4 questions. And I do this periodically. And the last question was, what do you think about the Big Ten's decision? And I think that's a very healthy question to ask student athletes, because there's a lot of people out there saying what everyone is thinking or should be thinking. And there's one narrative or one opinion. Every single person that I've talked to, 30 for 30, like the ESPN show, right now, 30 for 30, every player has said the Big Ten made the right decision. Were they disappointed that they didn't play? Sure. Everybody wants to play. We want to coach. They want to play. That's why we're all here. Everybody's competitors. But at the end of the day, when you listen to the student athletes that I talk to from our football team, the information that they relayed back to me about how they know it was a very hard choice, but inevitably, at the end of the day, the right choice for them to keep them safe and healthy with too much uncertainty, as Kevin Warren said. And so, again, as we continue to move forward, we're going to take the next right step, the next safest step possible. And I think that's fair for how we even control the narrative moving forward of what these last 5 to 6 months and everything has meant to college football as we evaluate everything.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go to Jim Rich with Fox 9.
Hi, Jim.
Jake, how are you, sir? I know you're doing
Hey, nice to see you.
I love it. First off, for you, you're always the guy that puts positivity into everything. You came in here, this program wasn't where it wanted to be, and you said, no problem, we could figure this out. What has been your message, because you had such great momentum going into this season that now appears to be derailed and it appears to be a negative? How are you going to push this into a positive spin for your fans, for the university, and most importantly, for your players?
Well, first of all, communication, which we talked about, that void in communication usually is filled with negativity, right? And then row the boat. I mean, it's pretty simple. This is what row the boat's all about. I mean, we're in uncharted waters. We're in a pandemic. Nobody knows. You got to keep your oar in the water and just keep rowing. But I've talked to my players every single day. And it's amazing because it's taken a lot of work and a lot of time. But when you look at it, whatever comes out with certain information. Well, what I do is I'll go into the position meetings and say, how do you all feel about the information that just came out? And basically give it back to them in layman's terms so our culture can process it, understand it. They can process it, understand it, and then have their own opinion from it and not have maybe the narrative that's out there form their opinion. And I think that's critical. I think communicating through all of this, because there's so many outlets that people are getting so much information from. And even doubting doctors. Listen, I got an 18 on my ACT twice. I think you're all very aware of that. If I'm going to take something for a headache, I have to read a bottle and say directions. How many should I take? Or I ask Heather. It's just as good as the doctor. So how am I going to doubt a doctor when I was an elementary school teacher and studied, and taught 6th grade social studies. I'm not going to act as the doctor. We're going to take the information that doctors are going to apply and medical teams are going to be able to give the rules and advice for, and then we're going to apply it. But as we apply it, we're going to talk about it. And I think that's critical. I think communication's absolutely critical in any relationship and any pandemic. The more communication, the better. And then you can make your decisions. But I was told a long time, I won't even get into that. I won't get into that comment, but or that quote, because you'll sit there and go, here he goes, full of quotes again. But I think that's the biggest thing that we can continue to do is we are positive. Whoever handles this better for longer is going to win. If you watch Hard Knocks, which is just out, Anthony Lynn is pointing at his screen with the team that he's coaching, and he's telling them whoever does this better is going to win the Super Bowl. I've told my team the same thing. Maybe not the Super Bowl, but whoever does this better. And our slogan in January was better for longer. Nothing by coincidence. Whoever does this pandemic better for longer is going to win. Now, we're going to do it our way. We're going to listen to our president, Joan Gable, who's done an amazing job of leadership through this. Mark Coyle, incredible leadership through this. Our players have been here wanting to be able to do what we do and hopefully trusting us in everything that we do. And that's why they're pretty much all here. We're going through it together. I'm listening to them. We're listening to the medical staff. We're communicating with each other every day and forming how the Gophers are going to do this. Just because other people are doing things doesn't mean it's right for us. And so we're going to listen to the people and listen to our players and listen to the medical staff, our leaders, our administration of what we all feel is the best thing for the Gophers to keep moving forward. And even right now, we're not doing as much as everybody else, but we're doing what we feel is the best thing to do to get through this and do it better for longer.
A quick follow-up, if I may.
Sure.
Some coaches are not interested in spring football and some are for it. Can you share some preliminary thoughts on if the Big Ten were to play spring football, your opinion of that?
I'm not sure how many sound bites you'll get out of this one, though, but it truly is up to the medical staff, period. The health and safety of our players is the number one thing at everybody's in everybody's mind right now, period. And I think our players would tell you the same thing of how they feel. And nothing comes before that. Not winter ball, not spring ball, not next season. The health and safety of what they are going through and what they have to do and the plans laid out for them has to be at the forefront of everything we do. There's a lot of things out there that are very creative, that are exciting, but it's got to pass a lot of protocol with the medical staffs. And like I said before, those are a group of people that no matter what, we're always going to listen to, especially at the University of Minnesota and our medical team.
All right, thank you, Coach. Thank you, Jim. Let's go to Ryan Burns. Ryan, go ahead.
Hi, Ryan.
Hey, Coach. I was curious, what does, with the decision coming down this week, are you guys able to practice, or what does the foreseeable future look like for you guys? And then with no game in sight, what is the motivation for you to continue to have your players go 100% every day with, you don't know if there's a game in 4 months, 8 months, 12 months? How is that going?
Yeah, the big thing is the standard's the standard. If you choose to be here, which it's all voluntary, when you walk in here, the standard's a standard for the coaches, for the players, for everybody. But what we've done is analyze where we are in the season and knowing there will be another season. At some point, they're going to open those gates and we're going to run through. And whatever comes through those gates, we got to be ready for. So we've got to start preparing now. So if there is a winter season or spring season, fall season, we're ready for it. Now, are we playing tomorrow? No. There is, again, just like training camp, there's a natural progression of this development led by the medical professionals. So if you come over to our facility, no, practice doesn't look like practice. We're doing an equipment tryout phase, right? But there's walkthroughs, there's position meetings, there's fundamentals, there's camaraderie, and practicing everything everybody else is doing, the masks and the social distancing and everything else. So we feel we've created an incredibly safe environment for our players to be able to continue to move forward and look forward, because that's the one thing everybody's living in now, whether people are disappointed or happy or whatever it is about the decision made. The decision's made. The decision's over. Just like I stood before you a few months ago and said, we're not going back. You can't go back. That's what Row the Boat's all about. You're looking at the past. Yes, it happened. It's over. It's done with. We can learn from it now as we continue to row into the future. but we know we're going to get to whatever we're going to. And we want to be as most efficient and safe as we possibly can be while we're doing that. So I give our players a lot of credit. It's been a lot of fun coaching them during this time, even for our staff. It almost gives them a little bit of what the NFL's like, like a little NFL mini camp / OTA on a very, very small scale. But they get in here for a few hours and they're gone. And it's good. Same with our coaches. So the mental health of everybody inside our organization, led by me, is at the forefront of my mind, because that's another topic we need to talk about, right? Is the mental health and the well-being, not just COVID, but these young people are dealing with so many stressors in their life right now. So many. These are student athletes. And I know everybody wants to talk about become professionals and everything else, which that's a topic for another day, and I get it. But they're 18 to 22-year-old young men who are dealing with a national world pandemic that no one's ever dealt with. That's affecting them in their sport and in some of the things some of them only know. It's affecting their academics. It's affecting their sick mom or dad with cancer at home. It's affecting their relationship with them, of how much they can be around them, right? It's not just about how many kids got tested positive. That's what everybody keeps talking about. We only had 1 or 2 kids test positive. That's good. That's good. That means guys are doing what they're supposed to do. But we were thinking bigger than that. We're thinking about their family members and their grandfathers and their grandmothers. In some cases, a lot of their grandma and grandpas raised them. We're thinking about everyone in this world, in this nation, and the people close to our kids, because we don't create a bubble. You do everything you can to create a synthetic bubble, but they're kids. You're going to tell these parents they can't see their kid, right? So we've got to create the safest environment possible, make sure we listen to our safety professionals. And as we continue to move forward, all these talks, we need to communicate and be open and know that change is inevitable, but the mental health of these kids is incredibly important. And our staff. I mean, our staff too, they're dealing with a lot as well. We all are. But that's why it's really a world pandemic, is because we're all affected by it. It doesn't care who you are. And then we're dealing with the social injustice issue on top of that, right? And so when you think of what's going on in 2020, the young people, 18 to 22, who are not grown men with families yet, right? Who are not professionals yet. They're student athletes. Their safety, well-being, medical health, mental health, emotional health, physical health has to be at the forefront of every decision we make, period. So we're going to continue to focus on those things. And we're going to continue to pour a ton of energy into that. Football, again, second nature right now.
All right, thank you, Coach. Let's go to Dave Campbell with the Associated Press.
Hey, PJ. You're talking about staying positive. I'm wondering what you've observed from your upperclassmen, especially the guys who may graduate before there's another season, and maybe even some of them would turn pro, like Rashad. Just thinking about them not being guaranteed necessarily to play another game. Just what have you seen from those guys and how they're handling this?
I've seen maturity. I mean, our young men who are older in this program have seen a lot. Seth Green has seen a lot, right? Micah Treadway's seen a lot. You look at the older guys, the Bryce Withams have seen a lot. And those guys have shown an incredible amount of maturity throughout this whole process. I think when it first came down, again, communication's everything. I mean, the amount that we're communicating with our team is more than ever. And I'm thankful that we're doing that, because every new thing brought out, a source of information, allows that gap to get bigger and people to feed into that. We've hopefully closed every gap by communicating through it together to process all the information, including eligibility. And I think that's on the forefront of every 6-year senior or 5th-year senior's mind right now. And as we continue to go forward and more things come out, like it already has, it looks like it's trending towards a direction that, listen, take a deep breath, focus on now, and that's all we can control. And that's been my message from day one throughout this whole thing. And it's so difficult for young people just to focus in on now when everybody else is talking about then. But that's my responsibility, is to get them right back in the culture, bring them right back to now, and do everything we can to direct all of our energy to what we're doing right now. And when you start getting involved in all the other stuff, I mean, it's gonna spin your brain out real quick. And again, as you said, what have you done to stay positive? Focus on now, period. They know we're planning. They know we're working. We're in team coffee yesterday. They know I'm on a Big Ten call, right? And they know that. They know we're constantly doing the next right step for them. And this comes down to trust. This whole thing among players and coaches and doing what comes down to trust. And this is year 4 for us. And I told you before, trust comes down to 3 things: time, consistency, and proof, right? And that's from Kevin Eastman's book, Why the Best Are the Best. Time, consistency, proof. We've had time, almost 4 years, of showing them this is how we do it. So we row the boat through this. It's not like row the boat's new. We row the boat, no matter what we're thrown at. Consistency, they know that we communicate and we tell them exactly what's going on, and we talk a lot, and we would never put them in danger with consistency. And then proof, because you have to have that proof to be able to say, okay, I get it. Time, consistency, proof. Then you have your final trust. So hopefully, like I said, our whole organization trusts each other right now. I feel like we do. And that's really exciting, because you can take the next right step tomorrow when it comes.
All right, we'll take 2 more. We'll go with John Krasinski with The Athletic, and then we'll finish with Adam Rittenberg with ESPN.com. So, John, when you're ready, go ahead.
Hey, PJ, thanks for doing this.
You betcha.
One of the questions I had was just about, you talk about the guys being understandably disappointed. How much of that do you think is rooted in you're coming off a great season? It seemed like momentum is going in the right direction. There's high expectations coming into this year for this group. And I think a lot of players, a lot of coaches, a lot of fans are thinking this team is really poised for something special this season. How much of that do you think is you having to manage here with that?
Yeah, first of all, we don't believe in momentum. I think that's a kind of a made-up word to make an excuse why another team goes on a 20-0 run in basketball. It's an excuse. Someone's either playing better offense and worse defense, or better defense and worse offense. I mean, it's a word we all use. It's kind of make-believe. It's pixie dust, And so we don't necessarily believe in that in terms of the actual momentum. But our message to our team was, okay, the pandemic's a horrific, terrible, humbling virus, right? It's horrible. But when we look at our football team, and you look at the football part of it, of where our team is at and who's on our roster and who left, we lost two first team all Big Ten receivers, and the first 2 on the same team that's ever happened in the history of the Big Ten, and they're gone. But there's 78%, go figure, of our catches from last year that are out there to be caught. The more time we have with our team without playing, everybody's going to talk about what's good for their own program. And I think everybody's starting to kind of see that about what's good for this team, what's good for this team. What's good for this team might not be good for this team. And that kind of stems your own beliefs on this at times. But just football, the more time we have to build this football team, the better we're going to be. And that was my message at the beginning. To Jim's point of how do you be positive, you share that with them. And they look around. I asked our older guys who've been here 5-6 years, freshmen, stand up. Everybody look around. And when you look at Jalen Logan Redding, he looks different. You look at Ja Joyner, he looks different. Right? You start looking at the offensive line, you look at Ariante, he looks different. They watch these guys like Daniel Jackson, right? And Doug Emelian, and they're like, woo! And they might be young, but the more time we have with them without playing only helps the depth of this team. And I'm excited about that. Are there guys that are being approached probably by agents? Sure. Are there guys that are being approached by other teams? I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. But I trust our football team. And I know they're going to make the best decisions for not only themselves, but our football team. Like Rashad made the best decision for him. And again, our football team will continue to get better. And those young guys are going to have to be able to step in. The Chris Altman-Bells and Demetrius Douglases, right? The Seth Greens, our tight ends, Clay Geary, right? Brevin Spanford. But it's how you respond to everything that comes your way that matters in life. And for us, it was like, guys, look around. Can we imagine a year from now with these guys? I mean, I know we came off 11 wins, but you don't think we can do that again? Like, do you not feel that? Look, we just got deeper. And these freshmen, our recruiting classes are getting better and better and better. I mean, we just got our first big-time commit for 2022. It's 2020. I mean, so to me, I'm always going to look half full of water, half full of air. It's always half full. That just depends on how you want to look at it. For our football program, we're always going to be able to dissect the information, process the information, look at the medical information, dissect it all, and then make decisions moving forward and keep a positive attitude, because I think that's really powerful. And it's not make-believe. That's why I made them all stand up. It's not make-believe. You can't sell something to a kids that's BS. Not in 2020. It's got to be real. They got to see it. They got to touch it. They got to feel it. They got to experience it. And they have. So for us, I think that's a credit to our entire coaching staff, our players who help us recruit here, right, to the row the boat culture. And that's what we're doing.
All right, we'll go ahead and take our last question from Adam Rittenberg, ESPN.com. Adam, when you're ready.
Yep. Hey, PJ.
Hi, Adam.
I just wanted to. Yeah, sure. You mentioned earlier about the response to that question about the Big Ten and the universal response that they feel like the Big Ten did the right thing. I'm curious why you think that is. Maybe it's something about your program or something about the players, because we just heard so much on the other side from around the conference on this decision. Why do you think your players are aligned, at least so far, that the league made the right call?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily just us, right? But what I wanted to do was I wanted to ask them. I clearly wanted to ask every player, not in a team meeting. Hey, shake your heads if you agree. I mean, we're talking every player, individual meeting with the head football coach. Tell me how you feel, because they're the ones that matter, period. The student athletes, safety, well-being, health matter. And when there's any doubt whatsoever, right, I'm going to make sure they understand that we're going to keep them safe and healthy. Just like before COVID, you're going to create a safe environment to practice, to play. When somebody has some type of mental illness, do you have a response mechanism built into that? The emotional part, do you have response mechanisms and medical people involved in that? Same with the physical part. So I think when you look at our responses of our football team, of what they were able to say and how they were able to say it, they were just honest of how they felt. And that's all we want in our program is honesty. And, but again, I'm a third of the way through the football team, and it's consistent 30 for 30. Not to say that everybody didn't want to play. You know, I think that got in the way of saying that people want to put, you know, being safe was going to have to be sacrificed for playing. I don't think that's how they looked at it. They knew they all wanted to play. I wanted to coach. They know that. Everybody wants to do that, but not at the expense of their health and safety. And I think Kevin Warren said it best when he said it about there's just not enough data and information for our conference and for us as head coaches to look at our players from where our areas are. And that's critical to understand too. Where are the conference teams located, right? I mean, you look around, how does the contact tracing work when you go to states that only can be around each other 10 players at a time? Or how the contact tracing works in their states. There's so much data and information that everybody has to process right now. But again, leadership makes decisions. We've been led in an incredible way with Mark Coyle and President Joan Gable, an incredible way with honesty and transparency through the whole thing. And for us, our players just spoke their mind.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Coach Fleck, and we look forward to seeing everyone soon. Thank you.
You got it. Row the boat, Sky Ma, go Gophers. Thanks, everybody.